Hello and welcome to the Northern Talent Cup. It's round 5 of the 7-event 2022 edition of the Championship, and the first time the series visits the sleepy mining town of Most in the Czech Republic, 1 hour north of the capital city of Prague. The highlights you are watching are from yesterday's race 1, a scintillating debut of the series at this 4.2-kilometre track. We had red flags come out on the opening lap after a heavy crash for the young Italian rider Matteo Massili, leaving us with a short and 9-lap shootout. It was ultimately Massili's teammate and championship leader Rossi Moore who emerged victorious from the second row of the grid, outsmarting his rivals in the final lap to take his 5th victory of the campaign. It's been 1 per round for the number 92 so far, so can he finally score that elusive double? Will the likes of Kevin Farkas or Dustin Schneider strike back? Or could we even be up for a 5th different race winner this year? All those questions and more will be answered in a few minutes' time as we prepare to go racing at the Autodrome Most. Hello and good afternoon from a super sunny Most. It's an absolutely gorgeous afternoon here in the Czech Republic. Absolutely ideal conditions to race in, and we've certainly had no shortage of excellent racing here today. This is our 5th race overall in the schedule here in the Czech Republic, and now it's time for our grand finale of this Czech round, provided by the Northern Talent Cup Race 2. Anthony Nelson and Steve English live trackside to take you through this Race 2. And Steve, we had an absolute barn burner yesterday featuring our top riders in the championship. More of that which is expected today. I
like that, Anthony. It's a super Sunday and the grand finale is the NTC. There's nothing really like the Talent Cup races, and the reason for that is everyone's out there on the exact same bike. It comes down to the rider to make the use of their experience, their speed, their talent to get themselves to the front of the field. These races always have it where the cream rises to the crop over the course of a full season.
Must be said, we've had 11 over this weekend so far, including yesterday's 10 so far. This is the 11th, including yesterday's race 1, so the bar has been set pretty high. We'll start with our grid and our pole sitter, the number 19, Maximus Schmidt. Now, yesterday, had to sue a ride-through penalty. Today, he has no such condition inflicted on him. He was in that leading group throughout the whole race. We saw him very, very competitive before 4 laps before the end when he decided to take that penalty. So keep an eye out for the number 95.
Yeah, you lose about 24, 25 seconds for a ride-through penalty. That's how far behind the race winner he was when the red flags came out.
6th consecutive race on the front row for Jurien van Kruchten. Hasn't been able to capitalise in terms of race results with that elusive first podium. Still slipping away. He'll get another chance today.
Yeah, top 10 finish though, and he'll certainly think that there's an opportunity for another decent haul of points today.
We'll now complete our front row of the grid with the number 10, Valentino Hairless. You've got him on your screen right now. Now, he was leading out of that final corner. He got picked to the finish line by Rossi Moore and then was demoted 1 position due to a track limit infringement on that final lap. But still his first podium of the campaign. Very, very competitive since returning from injury.
Yeah, a little bit of bad luck there for Hairless, but he looked really strong yesterday. Keep an eye out on the number 10 all the way through this race.
Next on our grid is the number 29, the local hero here of this Northern Talent Cup, Filip Novotny. Now, he crashed out of the race yesterday. We thought for a moment there was a bit of contact there, but actually he just slipped on the outside of the entry until turn 1, just clipped the glass there, but he had proven to be competitive in the early stages of that race.
Yeah, a bit of bad luck. He was involved with Dustin Schneider in that as well. Schneider ended up all the way down the field and lapped at the end of the race, but certainly for Novotny, worth keeping an eye on him.
Now, this is a rider we have to keep an eye on. Number 92, Rossi Moore. As we said in the opening of this programme, 5 race wins so far, but the double has been elusive. He has always had something come up, be it a track limits penalty, or as we saw in Assen last time now, a crash on the final lap. That will be his target for today.
Yeah, he'll turn 15 in a few weeks' time, and he's really done a lot this year to build up his reputation.
Completing the second row of the grid is Martin Vince. Now, he's the only rider to finish every race this year inside the top 10. Fairly quiet in yesterday's race, but he was in that front group, and potential is there to see more action from him today.
Yeah, he's finished 7th in yesterday's race, so elevated a spot on the grid as well by the loss of Massili.
Now we'll move on to the third row of the grid with Dustin Schneider, Farkas and Sessler. Now Dustin Schneider, the number 20 we've got on our screens right now, we originally did think that there was an incident with the number 29 Novotny, but it was actually a small technical issue for the German rider. He still sits third in the championship, but his rival's starting to get a bit closer.
Yeah, and for Schneider, he's still got the opportunity to be able to hold on to that top 3 spot, but only 13 points between him and Loris Veneman on the number 77 machine. So that's a battle worth keeping an eye on, because after this round at Most, there's only 2 rounds left in this championship where they sport the IDM.
Second in the championship and 8th on our starting grid is Kevin Farkas. It was a fantastic race from the number 28 Hungarian rider yesterday. We saw him ploughing his way through the field to get to the front. He was leading over the finish line every lap until the final one. So he'll be looking to take some points off Rossi Moore's lead today. Yeah,
it was a shortened race, 9 laps yesterday after an early red flag. And you have to say that Farkas looked really good all the way through it.
This is one rider out, a fantastic launch off the 4th row of the grid yesterday. He moves up 1 position here. Rocco Slessler, the number 7, and he was as high as third at one point before dropping in the closing stages. Expect him to be competitive today.
Yeah, Sessler from Berlin. He's been racing in the Yamaha R3 Cup as well, so a lot of experience for him throughout the course of the last few years.
4th row of the grid, we've got Veneman, Varga, Kernan, and 5th row, Sidorov, Pomara, and Kuipers. Our leading trio are Schmidt, Van Krugten and Ehrlich. Watch out for Rossi Moore, middle of the 2nd row of the grid. This is our pole sitter, number 95. We're about to go racing at the Autodrom Most. Anthony Nelson and Steve English here, live to talk you through this race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup. As you can see on a notification on the bottom of your screen, we are missing a few riders through injury after the race yesterday. That's Rio Lawson, number 19, Frelson, number 42, and Matteo Massili, Rossi Moore's teammate, our championship leader's teammate, unfortunately suffering that crash which brought out the red flags yesterday, which moves all the back of the grid up to the top. Our front row here today is Schmidt, Van Krugten, Ehrlich. Watch out for Rossi Moore, the number 92, middle of the 2nd row, and watch out for Kevin Farkas right behind him, 2nd in the championship, 8th on our grid today.
14 laps of action here at Most in the Northern Talent Cup, and today's race is sure to be another classic as well, Anthony. We saw in yesterday's racing that there was tons of overtaking opportunities, a lot of riders trying to get themselves through to the front of the field. The riders to keep an eye on, though, you have to say, number 92, Rossi Moore, championship leader. He holds a 36-point advantage over Farkas on the number 28 machine, and then you've also got Dustin Schneider on the number 20 and Loris Veneman on the 77, fighting it out for 3rd in the championship standings.
Just about to notice those riders on the 4th row of the grid. We've got Loris Veneman, who climbed all the way from that 4th row of the grid to 4th yesterday. We've got Tibor Varga as well, the number 44. We've seen him be so competitive in the final stages of races. He was in for a shout for the podium positions yesterday before dropping to 5th. Watch out for him. And also on the 5th row of the grid, one of our race winners this year, Lennox Pomara, the Swiss rider, number 48.
Yeah, and certainly for Veneman on the 77 and Varga on the 44, they finished 4th and 5th in yesterday's shorter 9-lap race, so they'll certainly think that they're going to be in the thick of things during the course of this 14-lap race.
As you can see, conditions absolutely gorgeous here at the Autodrom Most. It's the highest track temperatures we've had all round so far, 42.2 degrees. Somewhat similar to what we had on the Friday, less so than yesterday. So that changes the complexion of the race completely. Yeah,
it really does. And these KTM bikes, they're all the same for all these riders. And then it does come down to, as the track temperature comes up, how the riders can react, how they can adapt to their bike and the demands out here as well. So there's a lot for these young kids to go through. And I do say young because you've got 12-year-olds out there in this field. And then you've got quite a few older riders, which means that you've got some riders that are a lot taller than others. And they're just all trying to find their feet and gain their experience to move up the ladder on the road to MotoGP.
Of course, age limit here in this Northern Talent Cup, anywhere from 13 to 17. We do have a couple of exceptions of 12-year-olds who are participating last year, but have been allowed to participate this year. And some of the most competitive ones is Martin Vince, the youngest rider on this grid with a lot of experience and the most consistent rider we've seen so far. Here are our championship standings. You're seeing a number 92. He will start from the middle of that 2nd row. He's got a 36-point lead over Farkas. who'll be starting right behind them. Watch them go into turn 1.
Turn 1's going to be key because down into that section it's a right-left interchange, and we tend to see an awful lot of action there, even with the more experienced riders in the Superbikes, the Supersport and the Supersport 300 World Championships.
Watch out for our front row. Schmidt, Van Krugten, Hairless, Novotny, Moore and Vince behind. The green flag is out behind. Wait for the lights to go on. The lights are on. We're about to go racing here at the Autodrom Most. Race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup is underway, and it's been a fantastic start from our pole sitter number 95. He had 2 brilliant starts yesterday. He will lead as we come into turn 1, although we can see Van Krugten is certainly going to give him a challenge coming in there, but it is a 95 who makes it through in first position. We've got number 36 in second, and I didn't quite catch who made it into third there. It is the number 10 of Valentino Hairless. So our front row of the grid, still our top 3 as we go through the first sector of this race.
And everyone survives the opening couple of corners, and they all try and make their moves now. Look at Hairless though on the number 10 machine down the inside. Good riding there from the number 10. He wants to make sure he's in a position to hit the front.
He was so fast in the free practice sessions earlier in the week by over 0.4 of a second in each one of them, so he'll be hoping to hit the front early and fly away before the likes of Moore and Farkas can come through. Now Moore's gained 1 position from his starting grid position. Kevin Farkas second in the championship. He's still down in 8th, so still some work to do for our Hungarian riders.
Yeah, you can see there the number 12 there of Vincenz, the youngest rider in the field. Keep an eye on him as well. He's trying to make some progress after losing out a few spots on the opening lap. That looked like the number 77 just running a little bit wide. That's Loris Veneman.
Loris Veneman had made a good start. He was 10th on our grid, 6th still coming up on our timing screen, so he may lose a little bit of time in there as they come through this exciting turn 15. You can see all the riders grouped together in this first lap. Now we're approaching one of our main overtaking hotspots here at this Autodrom Most. It is turn 20. We saw it get very heated yesterday at certain points in the race. As Valentino Hairless now takes the challenge to our pole sitter Maximus Schmidt. Can he get around the outside? He does. And behind Van Krugten can't make it past third. But now is the time for Hairless where he's going to try and gap the others.
Hairless isn't half brave to make that move around the outside into turn 20. That's great riding from the number 10. He's hit the front, but now he's got everyone else to deal with the slipstream down the start-finish straight. If the leading 5 riders can break away at all, they give themselves half a chance of being able to fight it out. They've got round about a half-second advantage over the rest of the field right now.
Well, just like yesterday, we came out of 21 in the final lap with Hairless in first and Moore in second. Well, now it's Moore who's moved into the lead. He was actually 4th when we crossed our timing tower here on the start-finish straight, but now he is in the lead of this race at number 92, and he is a rider who will also have the pace to open things up, particularly in this first section of the track.
Yeah, and you can see, though, with that slipstream, the other riders have been able to catch this group as well. Very difficult to break away whenever everyone's out there on identical machinery.
And we see on our screen Farkas is starting to make progress as well. He's up to 6th position, stuck just behind our pole sitter Schmidt, who on that start-finish straight has lost a few positions. Right now it's Moore, Hairless, Van Krugten, Schneider and Schmidt. Schneider also making swift progress here into 4th position, the German rider trying to make up for that technical issue we had yesterday.
Yeah, doing a good job on that number 20 machine at the front of the field, though it is still Hairless trying to make sure that he's able to battle his way through, and Rossi Moore. These 2 contenders always able to give us a good battle. We saw it in yesterday's races as well. But look at Hairless on the number 10. He's not afraid of just releasing that brake and just rolling across the other riders. Good riding from Hairless.
And Van Krugten is certainly trying to keep up with them. We saw him all over the back of Rossi Moores, who came around turn 15 and 16 there. Now it's a question for a lot of these riders in these early stages. We know they have the pace to keep up with our front 2, but can they do so over a 14-lap race? It was just 9 laps yesterday as we see Rossi Moore move back into lead before the start-finish straight. The roles reversed from the lap before, but for a lot of these riders, once the race rolls on, they're going to have to keep their stamina high and keep their powder dry. Yeah, and certainly with almost 30 degrees air temperature here, not much wind, it's a real challenge for all these riders from a fitness perspective as much as anything else. Look at that as they go 3, 4, 5 riders abreast, all of them going over the start-finish straight. We'll see who is the bravest and who is the last rider on the brakes. And actually, it's Kevin Farkas all the way from 5th. He's going to have the inside line as we go around turn 2. So excellent job from the number 28 to move into the lead ahead of Rossi Moore. And we have our 2 main championship contenders in the lead of our race. It looked like Novotny on the 29 might have made a bit of a mistake there through turns 1 and 2. He lost a little bit of ground. Novotny down in 11th, our local rider. Actually, now on our timing screen, it's just been updated. He's down in 13th position, so some work to do, but he did keep up with the leading group yesterday. See if he can spring a surprise for our local fans as we come round turn 10. Still 12 laps to go, still a very long race, but these riders certainly are getting all their fights out of their system in these early laps. Still hope they have something left for when we come to the final third of the race.
Oh, they'll certainly have something left in the tank, because they'll know that's whenever the race really is decided. But all of these guys will also be aware, 2/3 race distance, that's the key factor. We've already seen some races decided today by red flags, and these Northern Talent Cup riders are going to know that that is a possibility for them as well.
Since our top four have opened a very small gap with the riders behind them, but it's Martin Vince at the back of that group who was the fastest rider on last lap, fastest lap of the race entirely with a 1:46.6, and he's certainly looking to try and find his way onto the podium. But for now, it is Farkas, Hairless and Moore, our top three here. As we see Vince try and go around the outside as we approach turn 20.
Yeah, Vince there with the number 12 machine. He's the rider trying to make some moves, and he's just after turning 13 years of age. But he's certainly looking a lot more mature than his age would belie compared to some of these other riders in this group. But really good riding from the number 12, Vincent.
We're back on the start finish straight. Slipstream City once again as we see Vince move around the outside of Moore. He's going to find a bit of traffic there, but our leading quadruple riders four. We've got our fifth rider with Lennox Pomara. We haven't seen him so far. He was 14th on the grid. He's moved up to 5th now, and he's going to try and get a position around the outside of Vince. He's not going to make it around there, but excellent job from the number 48 in these early stages again, and he's gone past Dustin Schneider, 3rd in the championship.
Yeah, Lennox on that 48, already a race winner this season. We're just getting a notification though. Rossi Moore with a double long lap penalty.
Well, that's going to be very interesting. We haven't got a reason so far. We can only assume at this point, but that changes the complexion of this race entirely. He's in 2nd position right now, but that elusive double might be proved to be a little bit too far for the number 92.
You know what? With this stage of the race, still 10 laps to go, he can theoretically take his penalty, feed back into the group, come back in for another penalty a couple of laps later and not lose touch with the lead group. If he's able to stay in the group, he's fast enough to consistently get himself back into the fight.
Now that for the number 92 is going to be very interesting to watch. They usually have around about 6 laps to complete a double lap penalty, but we've got his main championship rival Kevin Farkas in the lead of this race. Now this will be the biggest opportunity so far for Farkas to really cut down his championship deficit. He couldn't do so very much when Moore crashed out at Assen. Farkas was only 9th over the line there, but here 25 points are in play as we see Moore try and get around the inside. I wonder if he's had that notification so far. If he hadn't, it will be on his pit board as we cross the finish line.
Yeah, and certainly for Farkas, our race leader, he showed yesterday how strong he is around Most. So he'll certainly have the opportunity of being able to pick up as many of those points as possible. But you'd imagine Rossi Moore, he'll have the pit board saying double long lap penalty, and he'll be shaking his head about that prospect.
I'll tell you what, it was a half-second lead for Farkas as we crossed the line. That will have been shorted with the slipstream from the riders behind, but he is certainly pushing at this stage and trying to open a gap. The number 20 has, a few riders coming to contact there. There was a number 95 of Schmidt. I didn't catch the others, but a bit of feisty action coming on at the back of our group. We do have a bit of gap now between some of the riders here, so those in that second group trying to chase Farkas. Important for them not to get caught up in too much action so they can catch the number 28.
Yeah, it looked like one of the other riders might have been Vanneman on the 77 and then the 44 of Varga. But as they fight and splinter this group a little bit, for Rossi Moore taking his penalty, look at where he's going to filter back in. It's going to be right at the back of this group, which means that on his next penalty, he's going to lose an even bigger margin because he may not be able to come back into a group and still have the advantage of the slipstream.
He's slotted right behind the number 44 of Tibor Varga. Now we saw those two have a pretty heated exchange at Assen, so certainly not the rider you want to find himself behind, but rider still, Rossi Moore has one long lap to complete, but it's still a long race. It's just lap 5 of 14, so our championship reader trying to hold on desperately to that big championship lead. 36 points at the start of this race.
Yeah, just looking at the timing screen as well, you lose 2 seconds taking that long lap penalty. So for Rossi Moore, as it stands right now, he'd drop well out of this group and probably all the way back to about half a second off the back of the group.
So So right now our top three is Farkas, Vincent and Hairless with Schneider hot on their heels. Farkas did have a fairly big lead as we crossed the final sector, the time point between the third and fourth sectors of this outer draw most. That will have dropped significantly by the time that we cross the finish line here, and we can expect it to drop a bit further as we come into turn one. But Farkas doing an excellent job at the moment, just maintaining that gap at a safe pace.
They're doing exactly what he needs to do at this stage, keeping calm and making sure that he's hitting all of his markers, not making any mistakes, and that's exactly what you got to do if you're right in front of your Farkas. Across the line though, Rossi Moore was intent on the number 92 machine. You can see him there in the shot. He's still got one more along that penalty to take.
So we've got Hairless and Schneider both had personal best laps at this time, so pushing really hard to try and catch him. Now Moore is 2 seconds behind Farkas at this time. Steve, we can expect him to drop a further 2.5 seconds in that lock and lap penalty. As you mentioned earlier, we'll see if the number 92 does it here, and he hasn't done it. So that is still something to watch out for the next 2 laps, but we'll fall right to the back of this group.
He won't, because he's going to have time to get through this group. That's good smart riding there from Rossi Moore at this stage.
Fair point, and here we're getting the reason for that penalty, and apparently is due to work on the bike after the 3-minute board. So a small mistake by the team here there for the number 92, spicing things up a bit for this race, because with the pace that we've seen from him so far, you know, he was our main contender for the race win, and this makes things very interesting.
Yeah, it's spicing things up for the championship as well, because as it stands right now, the gap between Moore and Farkas will be down to 19 points. That's only going to come down even further, because if Moore falls to the back of this group, he's only going to be picking up 3, maybe 4 points in this race. So the next lap, when he takes that penalty, he'll come back in with the second half of this race to attack and try and come his way as far up the field as he can.
Still very, very... Oh, we've had a crash around here. I didn't see the number there. That was, oh, that's number 10. That's Valentino Hairless. He was on the podium yesterday, third in our race as we crossed the final corner. But that's a shame for the number 10. He's proven to be so fast here throughout the whole weekend. He will not be on the podium. And right now, the rider who's moved up into that remaining podium position is Lennox Pomara on the number 48.
Yeah, Rossi Moore's not going to be too upset about losing another rival in this group to 92. Still with that second long lap penalty to take, but big shame for Hairless.
Right now, we've got 11 riders within 2 seconds. We've got Philip Novotny, who's fallen back somewhat from this group in 12th position. So Rossi Moore knows that those are the riders that he has to target right now, those 10 riders who may be in front of him when he serves his second penalty.
Just looking at the timing screens as well, Rossi Moore, one of the only riders in the 46s last time around. He was about 0.8 of a second faster than the race leader. That's why he's able to rejoin at the back of this group, but he'll pick up that slipstream straight away, and now he'll be able to attack from 11th position.
We'll see what the gap is as he crosses the second sector here, and it's 0.8 of a second, so that's some gap to make up to be able to get that slipstream by the time we get onto the start-finish straight. But as you mentioned, Steve, he was the fastest rider on track in the final lap here, so Rossi Moore with some work to do, but he is very much in contention at this time as we see our leading riders now fighting it out. Farkas is still opening that gap. It's nearly up to 1 second right now, but still a long race to go.
Yeah, there is a lot of this race left to go. We're only at half distance, but for all these riders in the NTC, they'll know that we're closing in on 2/3 race distance, where if we have another instant, you could easily see a red flag come out. At the front of the field though, Farkas doing everything he can to open up this lead. The next group all fighting it out for the podium spots are fighting probably a little bit too much, so Farkas has opened up a gap of around about 1.5 seconds now.
Needs to be better be careful, because the riders behind are approaching. The more they fight amongst themselves, the closer they will get. As we see Vincent try to go around the outside, he's going to move from 4th all the way up to 2nd. And there's the youngest rider on our grid, as we also see behind Varga making a very brave move. He takes 2 riders in one go. The number 44 is also looking very competitive. He's always very competitive in these final stages.
Yeah, Dustin Schneider there with the white helmet and the black and white bike. He got himself boxed out really badly through turn 2. Almost had to just sit up, wait for everyone else to get through there before he was able to attack again. That's one of the things that can happen around Most, where if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, it really can be costly.
And the number 36, Jurien van Kruchten, will be feeling extraordinarily frustrated at that. He just set his personal best lap of the race as we crossed the finish line. He was in that group, but he's dropped all the way back to 5th.
Yeah, and it is easy to lose a few spots, but you've got to keep yourself close to the front of that group to be able to try and fight it on to the podium spots.
Now the lead, Farkas, has gone up to 1.6 seconds, so he has just gone away. As you can see on our screen, there's a huge gap to make up. For Rossi Moore, he's at the back of that group. He's caught up with it. It's just 0.2 of a second, the gap between him and Schneider, who is right now in 10th place. The goal at this time, considering Farkas' pace, will be make it to second position, and we'll have the same exchange that we had yesterday in terms of the championship standings.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's all about what Rossi Moore is able to do to recover. He's got the gap down to only a few tenths of a second at the back of this field, but he's still got a lot of riders to make his way through. He's down in 11th.
You see one of the riders, Schmidt, our pulsar, to try and make up the inside. He's in 5th position, so it is the most competitive that we've seen from him so far this season. The best result of 8th at the Saxon Ring in race 2. Now here's Rossi Moore. He's at the back of that group. He won't benefit from the slipstream yet, but we can see in a couple of laps' time we can expect him to be right on the tail of that group as we approach turn 2 once again.
Yeah, you can see Martin Vincent able on that number 12 machine, gets engulfed on the run in towards turn 1. It looks like Varga on the orange bike has hit the front of this group.
He's been so competitive, Varga. We usually more used to see him in the latter stages of the races be so competitive, but he wants to hit the front right now and go. As we see in our number 28, the gap still keeps on increasing. He set his fastest lap of the race last time around, but his main rival, Rossi Moore, was the fastest man on track at 1:46.5. He is right at the back of that group right now, and we can't see on our screens right now, but we expect him to make further progress very swiftly.
Yeah, he's not going to be at the back of that group for long if he's got pace like that. Fastest lap of the race last time around for Rossi Moore in the number 92 machine. This is Varga, though, on the 44 in second spot at the front of that group. There's a lot of bikes for Moore to get through on.
You see a move down the inside by Lennox Pomarat, 14th on the grid, second in the race right now. He hits the front of this long group, and we didn't see Rossi Moore there. He's made further progress. He's made up 2 positions as we were speaking. Looking off screen, he's up to 9th, so that's another 2 points in terms of the championship. Next for him will be Julius Cunnin, the number 15.
Yeah, and he's going to come through pretty quickly, you'd imagine. And Julius, he's got so much more speed and confidence than these riders in the group. Look at Lars Veneman, though, runs wide on the 77, and few riders have to shut it off. That's just going to bring this group lovely and close now together.
Exactly, but a few riders here. We have our top 3 have opened a very small gap with that, but we can expect that to be closed down once again on start-finish rate as we see one rider. That was the number, I think that might be Varga, yeah, the number 44 going very wide there, and he's right at the back of that group, so that's another rider that Rossi Moore, our championship leader, will have overtaken. Expect to see more in the slipstream, but he's going to have competition from behind as we go up once again into turns 1 and 2. Our race leader, Kevin Farkas, has pulled away 3 seconds ahead as we see riders go 3-4 bikes length again into turn 1 of starting straight. Right now it's Farkas, Pomara and Vincent.
Van Kruten there really strong on the brakes on the number 36 machine to move up from 5th to 2nd, and he's got Lennox behind them on the 48, but then this gaggle of bikes all trying to fight it out to get up into 4th spot.
And guess who is in 4th spot? Our championship leader, Rossi Moore. He made up around about 4 positions on that start-finish straight. Next goal will be the podium positions, which are occupied right now by Van Kruten and Pomara as we go around this slow lap, this slow turn 10. We've got 5 laps to go in this Northern Talent Cup. This is more or less a distance that we had in the race yesterday, which was shortened by a red flag. So now these new laps are completely uncharted territory for some of them in terms of their late race pace.
Yeah, they also know if there's any incident from this point onwards and the red flags comes out, it'll be full points awarded. So everyone's going to be aggressive to get to the front of this group. 5 bikes abreast on the run into the Omega curve.
They're not waiting, absolutely not. These riders in the Northern Talent Cup trying to make it to the front. As you said, Steve, the earlier you get to the front, the more important it is in these stages just for whatever can happen. We have had a couple of incidents today decided by that with shortened races. So important for them to try and make it as soon as possible. Be aggressive with these moves. Now is the time to do it. As you see, number 36, Van Kruten, move back into 2nd position. These riders going around turn 21 again, own them to the start, finish straight. We'll have 4 laps to go once we cross the Chetin flag. Van Kruten with Pomaras getting the slipstream around the outside. The riders behind might be slightly too far to make it into turn 1, although as I said that gap was just being cut short completely. We see Loris Venom on number 77 trying to make it around the inside. He's going to move up to 3rd position. Oh, I think there's one rider who went long.
Lennox, I think it was, on the number 48 machine. Looks like he's gone missing.
Now it's Loris Veneman in 3rd position. Oh, there he is. He returns onto the track. He's going to have to give up a couple of positions there. You can't make up any ground by going through the chicane. So we'll see where he emerges eventually. But with all that, Steve, our rider in second position now is Rossi Moore. He's hit the front of the group and he has the pace to be able to gap them. Yeah,
it didn't take him long to get through this group and get himself back onto 20 points for a second. And then will he be able to gap them? That's the big question. He certainly has the speed to do it. But if those other riders don't fight with one another, they might be able to stay in the slipstream.
The gap to the race leader, Kevin Farkas, his main championship rival, is around about 5 seconds now. We'd expect that to be too much for Rossi Moore, simply based on the fact that the riders who are behind them are certainly going to put up a challenge. And with the slipstreams and advantage that these bikes have, we can expect when we come up to turn 20 or turn 1, a lot of those riders will try and get ahead of the number 92. But as far as the race right now is concerned, he's done what he needed to do. He had that double long lap penalty. It was a huge impediment on his race. He went right to the back of this 11 rider group. But right now he's in the position he needs to be in. Although we see a few riders try to come up and the inside of him, he'll hold firm as we come around turn 20 with Loris Vederman hot on his heels, and Vargas made his way up into fourth position, the number 44 with Vince in 12th. They make their way around the final corner. This will be 3 laps to go. Rossi Moore telling them to follow him. Don't try and overtake me right now, but I don't think they're going to follow his advice here because they know second position is the highest they can achieve in this race with Farkas, who's gone, and the riders behind. They're actually not going to make it up inside of second right now, but they're not going to catch Farkas. There's not enough laps for them to do it. Surely not. So the fighting will continue, even though Rossi Moore would prefer otherwise.
Yeah, Rossi Moore doing a good job, though, to get himself into those leading positions, try and hold on to second spot. But you can see just how easy it is for riders to have a small mistake, lose ground a little bit. That's what we're seeing from Sessler there in the number 7.
The gap is nearly 6 seconds to our race leader, but it's only 1 second around these 10 riders from second to 11. Incredibly competitive stuff in this Northern Talent Cup. It's the usual kind of fights that we see during a race. We're going to see an incident here coming around turn 2. Oh, that was a huge moment for Rocco Sessler there, the number 7 rider. That's why he dropped to the back of this group, but doing very well to keep on board. Yeah, doing well there, and at least able to live to fight for another day, and still holding on to 11th spot at the back of this group, so able to score some decent points. Now with all the fight in here, it's Vince who's moved to the front of this group. Rossi Moore remains stable in third position. It's where he needs to be, especially when we come into the final stages of this race. When we come out of 21, a lot of the riders would prefer to be behind actually rather than in front. Yeah, they certainly would, but really important for Vincente to be out in front there on the number 12 machine. He's trying to battle it out here with Dustin Schneider for third in the championship standings. As it is right now, there'd only be 5 points between them. Pretty competitive stuff. Moore has moved back into second position here as the riders come around that penultimate corner. Now the final long corner, turn 20. We're seeing Dustin Schneider. Steve just mentioned him third in the standings, trying to hold on and trying to make up some ground in this race. He scored no points in yesterday's race one. Any points he can get today will be important in the context of the championship. You see we approach turn 1 once again. Moore will take the inside line, but actually the 40-40 will Varga. If he can make the apex, he does make the apex. He goes around turn 1 and 2 in second position. You see this huge group of riders. We're focusing again on 20, Dustin Schneider. We've got so many riders inside this group, Steve. Anything can happen in these 2 laps. 2 laps to go, a lap and a half to go. So for all these riders, the goal is make sure you're in 4th, 5th, 6th position on this lap so that you're in a position to attack down the start-finish straight into turn 1. You can get slipstream to the line here as well. We saw that in yesterday's race, but you've got to make sure that you're in a position to always attack on that final lap, and that's what you're seeing from the likes of Moore, Varga and Veneman up there at the front of this group. Now here's our race leader, Kevin Farkas. It's been the absolute perfect race from the Hungarian rider. He will undoubtedly pick up his 3rd win of the campaign here. Phenomenal stuff, and he will cut that championship deficit to Rossi Moore. The question right now is by how much. Moore is still in second position. He's 4th in the championship standings last year. He's already won twice this year. Now he's in a position to put some pressure on Rossi Moore in the final 2 rounds of the championship. There's still 4 races and 100 points up for grabs. He's still in a position to win the Northern Talent Cup this year. So here we go. We're on our penultimate lap, coming around the final sector before we start the final lap of this Northern Talent Cup race. We have 4 riders going abreast into the penultimate corner of this lap. Right now, we've got Moore, Vincent, Varga. We see our race leader, 28, crossing the line. He's gone a long time ago, and he's celebrating early, as we can see, coming into turn 1. Don't celebrate too early. Anything can happen as we go into the start-finish straight. Moore is in second position. We've got Moore, Veneman, Vincent. Farkas trying to make up some ground inside. We've also got Van Kruchten trying to take the inside line, move into the top 5 there. Last time around turns 1 and 2. A safe job from all of them. They get through cleanly. So now it's a question of the next overtaking hotspot. But we see Moore is in third. It's where he wants to be.
Yeah, really good stuff from Varga on the number 44 to hit the front of that group. Very brave on the brakes into turn 1. And now he's trying to defend that position.
There we go, Varga defending that position through the slow section of the track. We'll get to turn 10, which is one of the slow, very optimistic overtaking hotspots. Then it's the fast and flowing parts of the circuit through turn 13, turn 15. You can make a move there, but a lot of them will be looking at turn 20, our penultimate corner of the track, to try and do so.
Yeah, and you can see here for Varga on the 44, he's put himself into the position to defend. It's going to be difficult for the riders to stay at the front of this group, but for Varga on the 44, he'll now fancy his chances on the run down towards that last couple of corners, but that's where the key overtaking is going to be done.
He needs to open a gap, though. If he does go through those final 2 corners in second position, you can expect the slipstream to help the riders behind him. For now, he holds firm in second position. They're
fighting too much, though, in that battle. It might be enough for Varga to be able to try and maintain enough of a gap to stay on the podium, but he's certainly going to come under pressure from Rossi Moore in the 92.
He's got Moore hot on his heels. He's got Dustin Schneider. All the riders there coming around into our penultimate corner, turn 20. Who will emerge in front? We've got one rider trying to go around the outside. There seems to be contact amongst them, but for the time being, he's the perfect race for our number 28, Kevin Farkas. He wins race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup at Moss's 3rd race win of the season. A perfect race for himself, and it's Schneider in front for second position, but Rossi Moore goes around the outside and takes the podium spots. All our riders in a 10th of a second. It's 92 in second place. It's number 77, Loris Veneman in 3rd. I think it was Vincent first in 4th position, with Schneider dropping to the back of that group. 5th position, he was 2nd as we came around the final corner. But what an ending to that race, Steve.
Yeah, thrilling finish there. Farkas, we didn't get to see too much of it, but he rode the perfect race there. It was all focused on the battle for second. Rossi Moore in the 92 does a really good job of getting himself back to the front of that group after a double long lap penalty. And then you have to say as well, for Loris Veneman to claim that podium spot, he wasn't in the top 3 that much during the course of that race, but he was in it when it mattered.
Less than a 10th of a second splitting our riders between 2nd and 5th position. Less than 6/10 or 7/10 of a second splitting our riders from 2nd to 11th. An absolutely fantastic finish here. We're going to see the replay from that finish. Dustin Schneider was the rider in first. As we said, the slipstream is so important in these final stages. He loses ground. He loses ground to 3 different riders, but it is Rossi Moore by just hair's breadth. 9,000 of a second, the distance between the gap between Moore and Veneman is across the line.
Yeah, and only a 10th of a second, or less than a 10th of a second, a half a 10th of a second, back to Schneider in 5th position as well. So really close battling here in the Northern Talent Cup. It's been 2 great races this weekend, and they've still got another 2 rounds to go.
Exactly, we've got rounds at Assen alongside the IDM Championship, and then we've got the grand finale in September at the Red Bull Ring, also alongside the German Championship. So still a long, long way to go, and Kevin Farkas will be feeling absolutely proud with himself with his performance today, because he's reduced the championship deficit. It was only 5 points, but it was what he needed to do to still remain in contention. We'll have 100 points up for grabs over those 2 rounds.
Yeah, super stuff all the way through this weekend, and Farkas and Moore, both of them look like they're a little bit special. 31 points between them, and I'll certainly be tuning in to see how the rest of the season plays out for them. But all these riders looking now for what the future is going to hold for them as well. Talent Cups for the European Talent Cup, supporting the Junior GP. That'll be the next step for a lot of these riders, and then into the Junior GP class as well.
Shout out for this rider, Loris Veneman, number 77. He was 1 position shy of the podium yesterday, finishing 4th. An excellent race it was from 11th on the grid. But here he returns to the podium for the 3rd time this season. He was 2nd in both races at Le Mans. He was so close to a race win in both those races. Really unfortunate to miss out on them. And his form had somewhat dropped since, but we see the number 77 there. Excellent job from him in this race.
Yeah, it really was. Dustin Schneider doing a good job. 3rd in the championship standings, but it's very close to try and hold on to that top 3 spot.
So these riders just waiting now to go into Parc Fermé and get our ceremonies underway. Well, the Czech fans here in the stands, we had around about 37,000 of them over the weekend here at the Outer Almost. They've been spoilt with the races we had so far, and this final race. The Northern Talent Cup has been no exception.
Yeah, it really has been a great day's racing here at Most, and a lovely atmosphere in the Czech Republic. Only the second time that we've come to Most in the World SBK Championship, and certainly everyone's quite excited to be back here again because the weather's been great, the fans have been great, and most importantly, the racing's been phenomenal all the way through today.
So I was saying at the start of this program, 11 races over 5 different classes we've had this weekend, and frankly I can't remember a boring one or any boring instances over the entire weekend. It's truly been phenomenal as we see our riders make their way back into Parc Fermé, and Kevin Farkas taking a bit longer, but frankly he deserves the time to make it back to Parc Fermé after the performance we've seen today.
Given how far in front he was of everyone, I would have thought he was back long ago.
Well, he might have done an extra lap, as we saw Toprak Razgatlioglu do once last year, maybe taking inspiration from some of our riders on the Northern Talent Cup's first visit to the World Superbike paddock.
I'll tell you what, it looked like he was going to celebrate one lap too early as well. So for Kevin, a really good performance there, and really well-deserved race victory. And yeah, he seemed pretty pleased with himself with that.
I'll tell you what, considering the gap that he had, we usually see riders slow down somewhat and just preserve that advantage. He didn't do that. He had set a similar lap time to the riders behind him on that final lap.
Yeah, an 8.5 second lead in the Talent Cup race really is a big advantage to hold, and one of the biggest dry weather race victories we've ever seen in the Northern Talent Cup as well. So very impressive stuff from Kevin Farkas.
So unusual to see that sort of gap between the riders at the front, and that's shown by the gap between the riders behind. We've got 8.5 seconds between first and second. We have 0.7 of a second between second and 11th. So it's very unusual, but it really shows the progress that Farkas has made this season and the potential that he has to be able to do so in such a race.
Yeah, very impressive stuff. And you have to also say very impressive from the likes of Rossi Moore. We know that he's a good rider. We've seen that all the way through the Northern Talent Cup. It's going to be interesting to see what the next step on the ladder is for him and how he's able to adapt to the deeper field and more talented rivals and more experienced rivals being the biggest thing. But he did a really good job to take his penalty at the right time and then also be smart enough to wait to take the second penalty, give himself the chance of being able to come back through the field. So that was good, clever riding.
Shout out to a couple of the riders further down our field, our local riders. We have the number 29, Filip Novotny. He was 4th on the grid, did fall back in some of those stages. A very lonely race for himself, but he does match his best result this season with 12th. And we also have Michal Prokas making it into the points position. So something to celebrate for the local fans here in the final race of the day.
Yeah, a lot for them to celebrate over the course of the weekend as well. We saw Czech riders scoring points in some of the other World Championships, and then a good way to finish it off with Novotny able to claim some points. He was a little bit unlucky, got himself into the wrong place at the wrong time earlier in the race, lost touch with some of the riders in front of him, but second row in the grid shows that he's got that good turn of speed and just needs to put it all together.
A few other riders in that top 10. We're going to catch a replay here. Not entirely sure what we're trying to see here.
The race leading, race winning overtake there from our race winner Farkas, and from this point on he took advantage of all the fighting that went on behind him.
That was an excellent job from Farkas on number 28. See him again move to the front of that group. He defended admirably in those laps and then just went off, and we didn't see him again.
Well, that's what happens in the Talent Cup races. A one-make series like this means that you can stay as a big group unless you start fighting with each other, and then you can have it where one rider or two riders can break away from the field.
So we prepare for our podium ceremony here at the Autodrome Most. And it's been an exciting weekend for these riders. They'd had a 1-month break, but before we get to that podium ceremony, a quick look at our results here from the Autodrome Most Race 2. It was Kevin Farkas, an 8.5 second gap with second position. Rossi Moore doing an excellent job to make up that ground. He had a double long lap penalty throughout the race, still managed to move into second position. It was damage limitation, and he did a perfect race to just keep that championship standings gap to 31 points. Excellent job by Loris Veneman in third position, and number 77. As we look a bit further down our final results, Maximus Schmidt, our pole sitter, eventually finishes 10th. He was only half a second off the race win, but still perhaps slightly disappointed considering that yesterday he was impeded by that penalty that we saw for the number 95, that ride-through penalty in race 1. He's 10th here today. And here's the Riders' Championship. We've got 100 points still left up for grabs in the final 2 rounds of the season. The deficit that Farkas has to Rossi Moore is 31 points. The riders behind as well, competing for 3rd position of the championship. Dustin Schneider, Veneman and Vincenam, just 15 points separating those 3 riders. The likes of Pomer and Van Kruchten hoping to make up ground and contend for those positions in the upcoming 2 rounds.
And so the race weekend for all of us here on the Fox circuit with the Northern Talent Chapter race 2. And we are ready for the podium, so we'll open the podium ceremony after Northern Talent Chapter race 2.
So we go for our podium ceremony here at the Autodrome Most, race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup. Another scintillating affair from our riders at the top of the field. Congratulations to our 3 riders, starting with Loris Veneman, number 77. 2nd position for Rossi Moore, number 92, championship leader. And the race win goes to number 28, Kevin Farkas. Another fantastic race from the youngsters.
Yeah, super stuff from all 3 of them, but especially for Kevin Farkas. To be able to do that is very impressive, and nice for our podium trio to be able to get their trophies as well, from James Toseland, former Supersport world champion, double world champion, and very much still involved in the paddock.
I wonder who will be taking tips from whom, given the performance that we saw from Kevin Farkas here today, the number 28. To be absolutely ecstatic at that result. We prepare to hear the national anthem for our race winner, Kevin Farkas.
And now it's time to hear the national anthem of the winning rider, the national anthem of Hungary.
Now let's hear the national anthem.
So it's 31-point lead for Moore at the top of standings after Farkas win today. National anthem for our winning manufacturer. So we go from the Autodrome Most, the fantastic event here on round 5 of 7 on our Northern Talent Cup 2022. A quick look at our highlight from this fantastic race here. It was number 95 of Maximus Schmidt who got the whole shot from pole position. As we saw, the fight behind got really heated on very early on before Kevin Farkas and number 28 hit the front. That's one of the most dominating wins we've seen this year so far. 2 rounds remain on the calendar. Next up, 2 weeks' time, we head to Assen for a 2nd time this season, this time along the IDM Championship for our penultimate round of the Northern Talent Cup. See you then.